What if Mega Charizard Y was in Gen 1 OU? Yesterday, I did Mega Charizard X, and I've been asking you guys who you think is going to be better between the two. And I've been surprised, because it's actually been, fairly even. I made a poll on Twitter, and I made a poll on my community tab, and both of them were just 50-50, which I would not have expected. But, I'm kind of glad, because there's definitely interesting discussion to be had. Now, with Mega Charizard X, he had the advantage of having a dragon typing, which for the most part doesn't really matter. The only thing relevant is a electric resistance, since both are weak to ice, and it doesn't really matter if he takes water neutrally, because Starmie and Swellow will just kill you anyways. Charizard Y, on the other hand, his main advantage is that he has a much higher special stat, so while Mega Charizard X needs to set up with Sword Stance, Mega Charizard Y just has immediate damage. But is that enough to where he'd be better than X? Would it even be enough to where he's good in OU? Only one way to find out. Now, starting off with the stats, another thing I'm going to say that Mega Charizard Y is better at is, I think Mega Charizard Y's special bulk is much better than Charizard X's physical bulk. And that's because, well, a lot of it has to do with just the stuff that's in the meta currently. So, a lot of the strongest, physical moves, it's, rock, ground, normal. Obviously, neither one of the Zords can take, rock moves. And X, really can't take earthquakes either. But for stuff like normal moves, Body Slam, Hyper Beam, and Slash, X's defense is good. It helps it survive those attacks. But for the most part, you still end up, getting a really bad deal out of it. Hyper Beam is probably going to kill you anyways, because you've probably already taken some damage. Slash is a crit, but for the most part, that one you can, for the most part, just handle pretty well, just given the Pokemon that have Slash. But Body Slam has a chance to paralyze, and you just don't take that. Meanwhile, what's the main special move in Generation 1? Psychic. And Charizard Y tanks those incredibly well. Not to mention other special attacks like Grass and Razor Leaf. But obviously both quad resist, but it's even better when you have such a high special. And granted, there is ice, water, and electric attacks, which do kind of, they suck a lot, especially electric, because it's just how high Jolteon and Zapdos' specials are. But even then, it's just about as bad as, Mega Charizard X being hit with, an Earthquake from my Rhydon. And even then, Mega Charizard Y tanks ice moves much better than X. Though I think it's a 2 KO either way, so it probably doesn't matter that much. Except for Chansey, which we'll talk about later. And yeah, it's pretty good. At least for the Fire Flying typing. Because I think it's good. There's no, Stealth Rocks I have to worry about. There's, one rock type, maybe two you have to worry about. But even then, with your Fire Blast, if you burn the Rhydon, even if it does kill you, you've already, pretty much taken it out. So that's a big deal. And obviously, Earthquake immunity is pretty good. It's not that much for Rhydon, because, it's still a Rhydon. However, especially for Tauros, because it means that Tauros' only ways of hitting you are its normal moves, or Blizzard. Because of your high special, you eat, the Blizzards easily. You can, definitely survive, a few of them. And then, yeah, Hyper Beam, Body Slam could be threats. But you also have a really good chance of burning with, Fire Blast. And as you're about to see in a little bit, you also just 2-hit KO it too. So, there's a lot of, Charizard Y has a lot of good things going for it. So let's see its move pool, shall we? Obviously, it has those really powerful fire moves. Just like X, it has, Body Slam. But for the most part, I don't think that matters too much. But what does matter is Fire Blast. Especially Gen 1 Fire Blast, with the 30% chance to burn. That's going to come up. For better and for worse. It's obviously against, physical attackers, that's huge. But also, you're probably going to get it with a lot of special attackers too, Starmie and Chansey. Because inevitably there's going to be, switch-ins, pivotings, etc. But even then, it's not even, the worst thing in the world with those guys. Mostly because, if you put them in a situation where they have to recover and you keep attacking them, the burn damage actually will, add up over time. which you'll see with some of the replays. Or one of them? I don't remember. But yeah, it's really good. And like I think it's the strongest just special attack in the game, unboosted. Because 159 is actually like a fairly bit higher than Mewtwo. Because Mewtwo has 130 special, if I remember correctly. Or is that speed? Okay, I actually want to make sure, just be safe. So Mewtwo, you have... Okay, yeah, so it's not... I don't know, oh, no, I was thinking speed for... I was thinking it's speed 130, yeah. But 154, obviously that's amazing. But 159... yeah, these guys are going to have very similar damage, rolls. However, Charizard Y is going to have a much stronger stab move. So yeah, easily the strongest, unboosted attack in the game, other than, the explosions, which may or may not even count. But other than that, he's not just, X, where he only has one special, because he also has Thunder Punch. As you can imagine, a fire type having electric type coverage is really good. Especially when you hit this hard. When you're hitting this hard with 159 special, 75, 75, base power isn't even the worst thing in the world. It is very, very manageable. And other than that, though, you are probably using physical moves. You can see the long list here. You have quick attack. You have rock slide. No roost, unfortunately. You would really appreciate it. You have sword stance, which you can technically use, but you probably won't. However, you do have one move that I didn't go over yesterday, Slash. Mega Charizard X also has this, and some people commented it, and I forgot about it, because I have a bad habit of forgetting about Slash. However, I'm just going to double down and say that Mega Charizard X would not use it. Because Mega Charizard X, no matter what, it's going to be a sword stance sweeper. And Slash does not work in execution. Yes, guaranteed crit is good, but keep in mind that, with Sword Stance, you're not going to get that crit. And a Sword Stance boosted, Mega Charizard X with Body Slam or Hyper Beam is always going to do more than just a Slash. So Slash is not going to be needed for Zard X. For Zard X, and I just don't see any reason why you want to use it. So, I know a lot of people are sort of romanticize Slash because it's because it's a good move. It always crits, which is not good used on a good Pokemon. But I don't know. I think Slash is overrated, just 100%. I think Body Slam and Hyper Beam are always going to be better. But if you can use it for Pokemon like Charizard Y, then it's pretty good. Because for Y, it's not going to use Sword Stance to boost its attack. So that's why Slash is just going to be used for good consistent damage on Pokemon that can easily take its special attacks. And for Slash, you can still go for Body Slam, maybe fish for a paralysis. But you can also theoretically do that with Thunder Punch as well. Although that, percentage of doing so is highly unlikely. But even then, I don't think it's really worth it. Because Zard Y is just a nuke. It's a nuke that you're going to use when most of the opponent's Pokemon are going to be paralyzed, or if they've already taken a lot of damage. With its 100 speed, it's going to be faster than most of the metagame, and with that being the same speed as Zapdos, you have a 19% chance to crit. And if you crit with a Thunder Punch on a Water type, or if you crit with a Fire Blast, oh dear lord, you're going to do a lot of damage. For the last move, I think Earthquake is the best one. Not only is this your main way of hitting Gengar, but also, if the Rhydon's, weakened, or took some damage, it could be a good way of just quickly taking it out real quick, And it can be used for other stuff as well, I would imagine. But I think this is, pretty good coverage. Fire, electric, ground, and then you just have, a critical slash. I guess I probably should just go up Fire Spin. Because, yeah, X and Y, they both have it, but it's just not worth it. Not only, X, there's just much better things to do. It wants to, set up sword stances and just kill stuff. Only use Fire Blast if it's, really needed. Meanwhile, Y, I guess you could get rid of, let's say, Slash. But keep in mind, Fire Spin is, 70% accurate. And it's just, chip damage. It could be somewhat useful. But I think Y also has better things to do. Because, like, look at all these moves here. Which move would Fire Spin be better than? Like, would it be better than Earthquake? Just except that, like, you know... Well, actually, I'll be honest. I'll just give you a spoiler. For the Rhydon replay, Fire Blast and Earthquake actually do the same percentage. Believe it or not. So maybe you get rid of Earthquake so that you can just, you know, trap the Rhydon, get lucky. But it's 70% accurate, so you're not going to get lucky. Maybe get rid of Slash, because they even hit anything super effectively. You have options. You definitely do. But, I don't know. I just think using Fire Spin is just a waste of a Charizard. But it's up to you. Maybe it wouldn't even be good in OU, and maybe you can just kill things with Fire Spin and, like, either in UU or you just seriously power creep never used. But yeah, let's go check out some of these replays and see how Charizard Y does. Now, starting off against Tauros, I would argue you have an even better matchup than, you know, X. Because you only take 35 from a Blizzard, and that's how much Fire Spin does. Being able to burn the Charizard, or the Tauros, is already huge. Because the Hyper Beam only did 29% damage, which I would argue for a burnt Pokemon is actually so very good. But that's because Tauros is very good. But yeah, you murder everything. And with a critical Fire Blast, I don't think anything in the game can really survive that other than, like, resisted Pokemon, like, Water types, Rhydon, or like high special walls, so like maybe Alakazam or Chansey. But for the most part, like, for Pokemon that obviously weren't designed to be like super strong, like special Pokemon, like, you know, Tauros or Cloyster, they just die. And so for Executor, it definitely dies if you have critical Fire Blast, which Charizard has a decent chance of hitting. Fire Blast with a crit almost does all of Snorlax's HP. I don't need to tell you how that's huge. And even with, like, an Amnesia, you still have Slash to just chip it down. But you'll also see, like, even for these replays, even Slash, like, it's a crit, it's nice, but it's not like a Body Slam or a, it's not a Body Slam or a Hyper Beam crit. This is not as good. But this is, but without a crit, Fire Blast doing 50% of your HP. Yeah, that is amazing. It just sucks that Charizard's getting unlucky and missed 2 of its attacks. But a burn's also appreciated. It just sucks that, yeah. Body Slam doesn't really do that much when you're burned, to no one's surprise. Though it's probably still good using the fish for paralysis. But yeah, see there, a critical slash, it only does like 30%. So like for Pokemon like Charizard X, would you really use it? I kind of feel like you wouldn't. And that's not much a Amnesia, just a single boost. Yeah, you need like 2 at least, like just to kill the Charizard, which gives it plenty of chances to either slash you or to just nuke with Fire Blast before you get the Amnesias up. And that's not even counting like if it gets like, you know, a crit. If it gets a crit, you're just dead. It doesn't matter how many Amnesias you have. And then Chansey, just like with Tauros, it can tank the ice move like pretty well. Like for a super effective hit, it ate that up just like great. Now granted, like yes, it can seriously threaten Chansey with, you know, like or maybe not seriously threaten. I think it's being a little too generous. Like yeah, it's getting damage in, it's forcing Chansey to heal. But you know it's only a matter of time before paralysis kicks in. And once it does, Chansey has the chance to just go for 2 ice beams. Like right there, see? Like, even though you tank it pretty well, you're still getting 3 hit KO'd. Which is less than desirable. So even though I want to say this is a good matchup, it's really not. Now granted, like Chansey is a good argument for Sword Stance. And if you really wanted to, you can get rid of Slash. And then just go for Sword Stance. And if you do that, maybe you can threaten with Earthquake. But even then, you're not going to set up Sword Stance against the Chansey, which has Thunder Wave and Ice Beam. And that's also another thing with just X, like that I failed to really think about yesterday. It has Sword Stance. Yeah, if it uses it, it's going to be pretty good. Not enough to where it's like, it's not enough to where it just auto wins, because like even a Sword Stance, Mega Charizard X doesn't one-shot something like Starmie with Hyper Beam. but you don't have many chances to really set it up. And Mega Charizard Y would have even less chances to set up Sword Stance. So yeah, probably not worth it. And then meanwhile, Alakazam. Like, let's see how much a Fire Blast does against a Special Wall. And against Alakazam, that is like half its HP. That's really good. And in case you're curious, Fire Blast does 25% damage to Chansey, so a crit would do like 50. And if you get a burn, like, you can see here, like, there actually is like some merit to, you know, burns, even for a Pokemon that would very much like hate getting paralyzed or put to sleep, because the damage adds up. And, you know, like, a critical slash is pretty annoying. So, like, with that replay we just saw with Chansey, imagine if the Chansey was burned. It takes, like, 30 to, like, almost 40% for every slash. It heals, but then it takes a little bit of chip damage. That adds up. It definitely adds up. Granted, you're always going to prefer, you know, like, the other statuses. But I'm what they call terminally optimistic. So you just gotta make the best of what you have. You know what I'm saying? And then against Cloyster, I honestly expected Fire Blast to do more. I feel like that was about as much as Charizard X did yesterday. So maybe it was a roll, but it doesn't matter that much, because that was a clamp and didn't do that much. And even hit 2 more times, that just makes a clamp like a 2-hit KO. Charizard Y easily has that. But it doesn't even need to use Fire Blast. That's how much Thunder Punch does. And yeah, Blizzard hurts pretty hard. But your Charizard Y, you outspeed everything, and you already nuke. So, I think it's worth it. You probably don't want to switch in the Cloyster, but either a good Revenge Killer or a good Pokemon to take out when you're at full HP. And then Executor. Admittedly, I was kind of disappointed to see Executor survive. I honestly thought with how much Charizard X did, there was an actual chance that it could KO. But even then, it's still the same thing as Charizard X, where Executor does not want to risk it. It takes like the 4-hit KO Charizard Y. That alone gives Charizard like a few chances to like wake up. But that's not going to get to that point, because with Sleep Powder, you have like a 50% chance you're going to miss, and a critical hit just 100% kills you. So Executor is never going to risk it. You're not going to risk your freaking Executor or over Sleep Powder. You have to switch. And even when you switch, a critical hit hitting your Starmie or Chansey, they're not going to appreciate that. And also, if there's a burn, this is going to make it even more annoying. So, yeah, I would still argue this is a great matchup. Because, like, yeah, like, there's just nothing they can really do. Also, a commenter yesterday brought up Blast Burn. Now, normally I don't add new moves to Generation 1, at least for doing videos like these, other than like signature moves. But I was curious, and yes, for Gen 1 custom games, Blast Burn is in fact programmed like Hyper Beam. If you KO something, you don't have to do a recharge turn, and that's awesome. However, I did check with Charizard X using Blast Burn. It still wasn't a 1-hit KO on Executor, but I remember getting pretty close. So it's probably a guaranteed OHKO with Charizard Y, but I don't plan on adding those moves, so it doesn't really matter in the first place. But maybe they could be their own video one day. And then Gengar. Earthquake, even though you don't hit as hard as X, it's still, you know, like almost a like 2-shot. Or not almost, it's flat out is. And even a critical Thunderbolt doesn't like kill you, but you really don't appreciate it. Especially how wacky Gengar is to get that crit. But yeah, Gengar, as you can see there, you can't really risk a Thunderbolt, because if you crit, you kill it, and if it doesn't hit the Hypnosis, you just die. But also, like, they would probably just go for 2 Thunderbolts anyways. And then against Jolteon, we already know how crit kills, and an Earthquake almost kills, but it's not enough. But Jolteon's faster, so yeah. Well, X could take the matchup pretty easily, Y cannot, which is unfortunate. And then Rhydon, the one that we all think about, 4 times Sweep the Rock, so scary. And yeah, I think for a resisted hit, that actually hit pretty good. And yeah, with a burn, Charizard can actually survive the Rock Slide. Who would have guessed? yeah, you still die, obviously. But as you saw there, Earthquake did 37.8, Fire Blast did 37.3%. So they actually did around the same amount, which is impressive. Especially since Charizard Y technically has more attack than Tauros, since Tauros has base 100 attack, and Y has base 104. But, yeah, like, it doesn't matter that Rhydon killed the Charizard. Not only is it in red, but it has, like, it's burned. Its physical attack is just not hitting. And that's not even, that's ignoring the fact that, like, with crits, too. Charizard Y can absolutely kill Rhydon if it gets, like, 2 crits. But also, like, again, you need it to get burned in the first place. So, yeah, that's a little unreliable. Like, it's definitely going to happen if you get forced into situations. But, yeah, it's a bad matchup either way. But much better than one might think, I would argue. Especially when it comes to, like, Charizard actually tanking the rock moves. And then against Slowbro, Amnesia Surf is like a guaranteed kill. But crits are a thing, and you crit as much as Zapdos, which is pretty relevant. Which, granted, it's not always going to work out in your favor, but good golly, can you do really good damage to Slowbro. You just two-shot it, basically, before it gets Amnesia. Now, granted, if it does get Amnesia, yeah, single surf is enough to kill you. Which, I don't think Mega Charizard X does better in that regard. Like, it has Sword Stance, but, like, it also would die to an Amnesia boosted surf, let's be honest here. And then we got Starmie. Starmie, just like X, Y also does pretty bad, but I'll argue just much better because you can two-shot with Thunder Punch, meaning that you can very easily, like, kill it with a crit. So that's pretty good. Like, it's still, like, a pretty bad matchup, that sucks, but it could definitely be worse. And, like, if the Starmie is, like, paralyzed, you actually might be able to win. Or Blizzard misses, because Blizzard is much more common than, Surf. But I'm not sure how much not so much a Thunderbolt does. But sticking up Thunderbolt, obviously Zapdos is like a one unwinnable matchup. But even for unwinnable, Fire Blast is almost half of its HP. So that's, as you can imagine, pretty good. So yeah, like as you can see here, like Charizard Y, it hits harder, it's more immediately threatening. It's not as good defensively, but also, X needs a setup. So being able to set up is, it's very unreliable. Because, like, what in Gen 1 can Mega Charizard X safely set up against? Like, really? Like, not Tauros. Like, maybe, like, a Sleeping Snorlax? But even then, what does Mega Charizard X do against, like, Reflect Wax or Reflect Amnesia Wax? Like, it doesn't have many safe opportunities. So in that regard, Mega Charizard Y is actually much more consistent. And even if, like, it doesn't get a KO on, like, Eggy, just the immediate threat is much better. Like, I'll show you an example here I did. So here we have one where it's, you know, X or Y. There's Executor. You obviously want to switch out. Fire Blast does so much damage. And then you have Blizzard. And then Thunder Punch does about half. But also something else. Technically, Blizzard is even guaranteed to a KO. So Y actually can kill Starmie. You're up that red HP, so even the incredibly uncommon Hyper Beam Executor can still kill you. But even look at that, look. Like, just by getting a free attack in, or honestly, it's probably more just because of the damage rolls, but you basically already took out 2 of these Pokemon. Now, how would this work with Charizard X? You have Charizard X out, you switch in a Starmie, the Starmie tanks the Fire Blast much better, and then what do? Try to go for, like, Sword Stance? Probably not. You're just gonna die to 2 Blizzards. So you just, you know, have to go for Body Slam and pray for a paralysis. So, that just doesn't sound as good, in my opinion. It really doesn't. So, here is the tier list. I was also considering doing, like, having the Charizard X's fight each other. But then I thought, it doesn't really, like, do anything. So, here it is. Just like X, it's for the most part pretty well balanced. Although, unlike X, Y does have at least one unwinnable. And even then, technically with a crit, you can probably kill it. Or at the very least just make it, like, unusable. Same thing with if you give it a burn, like, it just makes it easier to revenge kill. Or actually with a burn, it means that Chansey can take on Zapdos pretty easily since you don't have to worry about Drill Peck. So, yeah. Like, you guys can disagree all you want, but after looking at both of the Charizards, looking at them and making videos on them, I honestly think that Y would be better than X. I think X would be pretty good casual bait. I think most people would think cool Dragon type and cool, like, it can handle its weaknesses better. I think that, like, again, just do better. And I think in a vacuum, X can do a better job against most of these Pokemon in a vacuum. But that's just it. That's just what it is. Just a vacuum. I think in execution, Y being more consistent and just being more immediate with its damage means that if you had to pick one of them, I think most people are always going to go for Charizard Y. They're always going to go for, or they would rather use the one that, they don't have to set up for. They can just take it out. It can immediately do something. Not just a Pokemon that needs a setup. And here's the thing with Sword Dance Pokemon. They are good. They're definitely good. There's a reason why Kingor and Sandslash and friends can, do something in Generation 1 overuse. But I think we need to acknowledge that for the most part, they're sort of just a win more. Because you need something that's already paralyzed, or just most Pokemon to be dead, for them to be deadly. But if most of the team is paralyzed, if you just use OU Pokemon like Snorlax and Tauros, you're going to win anyways. You're just using a bit of a handicap. I'm not saying that X would not be an OU. It definitely would, and it definitely would be the best OU setter. But I just think Charizard Y is superior. I'm sorry. And it might be biased because Y is my favorite Mega, and I like it more than X. But considering the polls were pretty half and half, I think a lot of you just agree with me just in general. But what do you think? I've now gone over both Mega Charizards. Let me know which one you think is better. Let me know what videos you'd like to see next. I do these videos every day, and I still enjoy making them. And yeah, that's about it. I don't have much else to say in the matter. Though if you guys want to have a discussion in the comments about which Charizard is better, I am all for it. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.